What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? Laying down the game plan for how the D-backs can take down the New York Yankees and why we need to keep an eye on what's brewing for the D-backs in center field.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. On today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, we're going to be discussing D-backs going to the New York Yankees. We got a clash of two Titans, Eugenio, Aaron Judge, both win Player of the Week. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss Alek Thomas versus Mccarthy because there's something brewing in center field for the D-backs. So jam-packed pod as always, but first I want to say thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. One of those platforms is YouTube. Please subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. I apologize if my energy is low today. I am feeling under the weather, but we are going to power through it to give you guys another fantastic Locked on D-backs podcast because I'm like, it's too early in the season to already take days off. So let's power through this and let's talk about the Yankees, but let's talk about the D-backs headed to the New York Yankees. This is a very fun series. Once again, D-backs facing off the Yankees right at the start of the season, just like they did last year. Last season, it was the Yankees coming here. This time, it's the D-backs going to New York. And this is a series where I think the D-backs offense really has a chance to take advantage of this rotation that the Yankees are going to throw out in this little series because I'm not too scared of the rotation we're about to see upcoming in New York. Yes, the bats for the Yankees might be scary because I don't know what those things are. Those torpedo bats, they look like a movie prop. They don't look like they should belong in a real Major League Baseball game, but they do intrigue me. I do want to see the data on them by the end of the season. If the Yankees go out there and have a monstrous home run year and the offense goes crazy, I'm very curious to see if other teams are going to start doing that to their bats what the Yankees did, or if Rob Manfred is going to have to step in and say, you know what, this is just too much of an advantage for, the offense. We just can't allow it in Major League Baseball. Pitchers are a major disadvantage. I wonder if we have to knock this off eventually. So I am very curious about the torpedo bats and the data that we get from them. But I think for this series, I'm not too worried about it because I think the offense of the D-backs is going to match and surpass whatever the New York Yankees throw out there this series because I look at the pitchers that the Yankees are throwing out there and I'm not that concerned. It's Will Warren, Carlos Rodon, and Carlos Carrasco. And if you look at each starter right now, outside of Carlos Rodon, who has been kind of shaky the last couple of years, you're not very scared with either one of the other two guys. One is a youngster in Will Warren who hasn't pitched a ton in Major League Baseball. Last season, he was not very good at all for the New York Yankees. He had a very small sample size, made his debut in 2024. But if you look at the numbers, he had a 10.32 ERA. He only had 5 starts, 22 innings pitched, but 26 earned runs in 22 innings pitched, 5 home runs allowed. So he was a strikeout machine. I'll give him that. He had 29 Ks in 22 innings pitched, but gave up a lot of hard contact, gave up some home runs, and the guy just wasn't that effective. So are we going to see an improved Will Warren in 2025? He was making his debut last year. He's still 25 years of age, right? There's a bunch of these guys. You could go back, look at Brandon Pfaadt's rookie season, right? He was giving up home runs left and right. And since then, you feel good about Brandon Pfaadt. Still gives up home runs, but you feel good about him going into a start. Maybe this is like the sophomore year that Brandon Pfaadt had for Will Warren. We'll see. We're hoping it's more of the same of what his rookie year showed us, because if we get that guy, Dbacks offense should not be worried at all against Will Warren. And then after him, you face Carlos Rodon, who was a stud when leaving the San Francisco Giants, but since coming over to the New York Yankees, a little bit more shaky. The first season, of course, was an abject disaster, 6.85 ERA that first season. The regular season last year, much improved, still not elite though. For the money they're paying Rodon, which is, I don't have it, 27 million a year. I have it pulled up on Baseball Reference. He's making 27.8 a season until 2028. So I think a 6-something ERA his first season, then a 3.96 ERA his second season isn't too good. Not exactly where you're expecting for the New York Yankees. Not to mention the fact he was not good at all in the postseason last year. He was good in the ALCS, but in the ALDS and in the World Series, Carlos Rodon did not step up. So a shaky first couple years, not a good postseason pitcher as well. And he just hasn't looked like the same guy that we've seen since he was in San Francisco that final year. The strikeout numbers are still there, but the confidence, the swagger, Carlos Rodon, and just like the overall effectiveness hasn't been the same guy since 2022. So am I that scared of a Rodon? Am I that scared of a Will Warren? Not to mention Carlos Carrasco. Carlos Carrasco is the last. He's going in game number 3, and it's like he's a veteran who is old, past his prime, and a 5.6 ERA last year. Hasn't been good out the bullpen this season for the New York Yankees, and it's like I used to think Carlos Carrasco was like the most underrated pitcher in baseball, because from 2014 to 2018, he was basically a 3.3 ERA guy, 180 innings pitch every season, great strikeout numbers. Like I thought he was like maybe the most underrated pitcher in baseball for like a 5-year stretch. Now the last 5 years, he's just been over the hill, past his prime, and he's 38 years of age. And so when I look at who the New York Yankees are throwing out in this 3-game series against the Dbacks, yeah, I'm going to take the Dbacks offense against that rotation of the Yankees. Not to mention, the Dbacks are throwing out the top of the order against the New York Yankees. So, yes, they got those crazy torpedo bats, but we're going to see the debut of Corbin Burnes, who was very good against the Yankees last season, right? I think it was 11 innings pitched, only about 5 earned runs, double-digit strikeouts. Like, Corbin Burnes, 11 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 15 strikeouts, and 2 starts against the Yankees last season. Like, he's going to be fine. I'm not worried about him. If there's any jitters, it's going to be because it's the first start of the season for Corbin Burnes. But I like the fact that it's an opponent he should be at least a little familiar with, being in the AL East last year. A good chance for Zach Gallen to hopefully pick himself up a little bit, because people are concerned with Gallen, because I think they should be, because there's been stretches the last couple of years where he has not been as elite as that guy that we saw in 2022. So I want to see a fantastic start against Zach Gallen. I think we will, because historically he's been good against the New York Yankees. And then, of course, Merrill Kelly going in the finale, who had some command issues in the beginning of his first start of the season before settling down very nicely and having a strong start. And so I feel like the D-backs offense is going to outslug the New York Yankees. Of course, it's not a guarantee, but when I look at our rotation that we're throwing out there versus the Yankees, knowing we have a great offense, I think this could be a perfect opportunity for the D-backs to remind everyone in Major League Baseball who the number one offense was in 2024. Now, I will say, if the Yankees have a lead entering the 7th, 8th inning, 9th inning, they do have a killer bullpen. You do have Devin Williams, who is nasty in the back end, who they picked up this offseason. But the D-backs have yet to really throw out there AJ Puck, J Mart back-to-back in a close, high-leverage game. We'll definitely see it once at least this series. So it might just come down to who has the lead entering the 7th, because I think both of these two teams' bullpens can shut it down. But because of that rotation that the Yankees are throwing out there, I think the D-backs are going to win this series against the New York Yankees. Now we'll discuss some more predictions that I had entering 2025 and discuss if they're looking good or not so good in segment number 2. But hey, if you're looking to place a little wagers down on a March Madness game, then the best place to do that is going to be FanDuel, because March Madness is here and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. My favorite thing to do on FanDuel is the same game parlay. When I see the Phoenix Suns are playing, I'll take KD over on points. I'll take Booker over on points, and then give me the opponent's money line. I'm sorry, Suns fans, but that's what you got to do if you want to win some money. If you want to win some money, up to $200 of bonus bets, just put down $5. And if your bet wins, you get all that money in your pocket. So visit fanduel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Now let's discuss some predictions that we had entering the season. And this is really part of the pod where I just want to highlight myself and highlight the offense a little bit, because one of my big predictions entering this season was we were going to see pre-pandemic Eugenio, or if you want to package it another way, the second half of last year continued for the entirety of 2025. I said, because you look at Eugenio's numbers, the reason why I want to specifically say pre-pandemic numbers, because when you look at Eugenio's numbers the last few years, you can still say 3 of the last 4 seasons, he's hit at least 30 home runs. The power's still been there, right? He's still been 100 RBIs, 95 plus RBIs. Like, from a power department, 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, he's still been that guy post-pandemic. But one area that we haven't seen since the pandemic is that slugging. Despite having the 30 home runs, he has not cracked a 500 slug since 2019, where he was a 572. He finished 15th in MVP voting, had 49 home runs. But even without 49 home runs, he only hit 34 home runs in 2018, but still had a 526 slugging, still smashed the cover off the ball. And I think this is going to be the first season since 2019 where he gets back to a 500 slugging. Hit a 469 last year, and that was his highest in a non-COVID season since 2019, last year's. So I think this year he's going to break 500 for the first time since the pandemic. Currently he leads the NL in home runs, RBIs, and slug with a 1143 slug, which is just absolutely insane. So want to take this part of the podcast to highlight myself and highlight Eugenio Suarez, who is the MLB, or at least the National League Player of the Week, going against Aaron Judge, who is the AL Player of the Week. Very fun, because last season, if you remember, the Lourdes Gurriel won Player of the Week. Juan Soto won Player of the Week. It was Dbacks and Yankees again, and then they faced off against each other. So very deja vu from last season, where each of our teams win Player of the Week, and then we face off against each other once again right after. Very curious, very fun to see. Eugenio's been on fire. I think it's going to continue for the rest of 2025. And because of that, you should go on FanDuel, place $5, $2, $1. Just put it on Eugenio to win MVP. Put the over on his home runs. I think the over on the home runs is going to hit. If the MVP hits, just imagine all the money you're going to win. So just think about that one. Gabriel Moreno, I said he was going to finish top 5 among WRC Plus in the National League among catchers. And so far, Gabriel Moreno looks very good out the gates. Wish he started more. Don't really understand why he's sitting so much. I get it. You want to keep him fresh, but still, it's the beginning of the season. Let him play a little bit more, because he's off to a 5 for 8, which is a 625 average, and he just looked good, comfortable at the plate, coming in off the pine, pinch hitting. It doesn't matter. 2 hits for Gabriel Moreno. He just looked really good, and he's someone that we've discussed as taking that leap, showing flashes in the past as a guy as the number 2 hitter, hitting in the middle of the lineup, being good with runners in scoring position, just overall clutchness. Gabriel Moreno has flashed a lot offensively. It just feels like every time he's starting to put it together, something goes awry, he gets hurt, something happens, and it feels like this is a chance. Gabby's coming out the gates on fire. Like a lot of people last year, he started the season slow. So the fact that he's coming out on fire, I absolutely love it. And that's why I believe he is going to finish this season with his best offensive performance yet. And then how about a little Josh Naylor? We've discussed on this podcast a lot about how Josh Naylor can finish with a better season than Christian Walker, at least offensively, because we've been discussing how you look at the last 3 years, WRC plus, you total it all up, and Josh Naylor cumulatively has been better than Christian Walker the last 3 years offensively, which sounds crazy to think about because Walker's been like a 3,500 ribby guy, at least on pace. And even with that being said, Josh Naylor has been better offensively. And so far, you look at the numbers this season, and Naylor batting 400, 6 for 15, couple doubles, 3 ribbies, over 1,000 OPS, really, really strong numbers to start the season, amazing numbers to start the season. Meanwhile, Christian Walker, 1 for 12, a 167 OPS. Obviously, still so young. He's only played, season's still so young. He's only played 3 games, but Josh Naylor has immediately come in and showed you why he's such a good offensive player. His patience at the plate seems to always just put together good at bat. This is a guy historically does not strike out a ton, good walk rate, and you could just see it at the plate. Just always seems to get the barrel to the ball and puts it in play. So we love Josh Naylor. He needs to hit higher in the D-backs lineup. And then I was highlighting the things I've gotten right so far. I do want to highlight something I've gotten wrong. I've been probably pretty down on Pavin Smith all off season just because Jock Peterson was so good for the D-backs. Historically, Pavin Smith has not been that good for the D-backs. And at least for now, Pavin Smith is definitely proving me wrong. I am someone that wants to be proven wrong on these things. I want Alek Thomas to go out there and be a superstar. I want Pavin Smith to go out there and be a superstar. I want every player in this D-back squad to be amazing and live up to their potential. I didn't think Pavin Smith had it in him, but so far he is 4 for 7 with 3 doubles. And you look at the FanGraphs StatCast page, he leads the D-backs team in exit velocity at 102.7. His hard hit percentage is 100%. Everything off Pavin Smith's bat right now is a laser beam rocket ship, which is crazy to think about. If I told you in 2021, 3 years from now, Pavin Smith was going to be the hardest hitting player in the D-backs, you would smack me in the face. That's where we are right now. Do I think it's sustainable? I don't know. He had a great season last year in a small sample size. I'm going to take my expectations away and just watch him play, because if Pavin Smith can turn into this kind of player out of nowhere, D-backs development staff needs a major, major pay grade. And speaking of player development, one guy who we need to keep an eye on is Alek Thomas, because he's been playing so far pretty well in 2025. So we'll discuss him versus Jake McCarthy in segment number 3.
Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of 200,000 parts from 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SHF for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
Back here on the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, and now let's discuss something that's brewing for the D-backs, something to watch, and it's the Jake McCarthy versus Alek Thomas battle in center field, because we could be seeing like a changing of the guard. these two seem to always flip-flop their power ranking over who has the center field position, because some years it's clearly Jake McCarthy, and then somehow Alek Thomas always finds a way to weasel his way back in there, because you currently look at batting average and Alek Thomas leads the D-backs with a 714 average. He is 5 for 7 on the year, playing really, really good baseball. And we have to discuss, could we be seeing a changing of the guard in center field? Because you just track these two guys' journeys going back to the start of the 2024 season. Coming into last year, it was Alek Thomas who got the first crack at everything. It was basically center field is Alek Thomas' job to lose. That's how it felt entering 2024, because coming off 2023, Jake McCarthy had his struggles. Alek Thomas had his struggles, but we know we could bank on the defense of Alek Thomas. Plus, he was coming off that great postseason run. It was like, with his defense, if that power he displayed in postseason is true, this is a legit major leaguer. So we came into 2024 with the hopes Alek Thomas can start to turn his career around. He was named the starter out of camp. It was like, okay, this is Alek Thomas's job. Jake McCarthy, meanwhile, he's just fighting to be on the roster. Despite a guy who had an incredible 22 season, he had a very down 2023. So once again, with Jock Peterson, Randall Grichuk, Corbin Carroll, Alek Thomas, Lourdes Gurriel, like all these outfielders in the mix, Jake McCarthy was just fighting for a roster spot. Thankfully, he made it, but he was only getting the worst of opportunities, only against the left-handed pitching. And as a left-handed batter, you would think it's not going to go well for Jake McCarthy. But that's where you're wrong. That's where he was able to make a name for himself, because he started the season so hot against the lefties. Last year, it earned him more opportunity. Meanwhile, Alek Thomas was struggling at the plate. Then he gets hurt. And so Jake McCarthy, he's playing well against lefties. Now the main center fielder gets hurt. Means more runway for Jake McCarthy. He gets to go against right-handed pitching too now. And now his offense just off and running. Jake McCarthy has a fantastic 2024 season where he's truly at times carrying this D-backs offense, especially when was it, like July, August, where there was like a 3-week stretch where Jake McCarthy was just ripping the cover off the ball. He had like a walk-off in the middle of it, had other late game clutch moments where it's like, Jake McCarthy, like a top 5 player in baseball, at least for this 3-week stretch. Like, that's how legitimately good Jake McCarthy was playing at times last year. And if you look at his numbers in the month of July, Jake McCarthy, 345 average, 904 OPS. Then the month of August, 311 average, 864 OPS. But he had 26 RBIs in 25 games started. In every other month, he never had more than 7 RBIs. He had 26 in August, absolutely carrying this D-backs offense. And so he had an incredible 2024 season. Meanwhile, Alek Thomas came back late, never was able to find his footing, and just struggled the rest of 2024. And so you enter 2025, and the script is completely flipped. It's Jake McCarthy's job now to lose. He's getting all the starting reps coming out of camp. He's coming off the great 2024 season. It's like, clearly Jake McCarthy has to be their center fielder, considering he did play good defense in center field last year. Meanwhile, we also know his offense has potential to be really good. It was pretty good for the D-backs in 2024. And so, yeah, he's earned the center field job. Thomas, we know his glove is elite, better than Jake's, yes, but is it better? Does his defense outweigh how much he struggled at the plate? I would have argued no. Some other people would have argued yes. I think the D-backs felt like it probably didn't. But so far, you look at 2025, and the biggest difference between Jake McCarthy versus Alek Thomas this year compared to last year is Jake McCarthy still gets the worst of opportunities. Even though it feels like he's coming out of camp as the D-back center fielder, being the, the go-to starter, he's still the guy that isn't starting against right-handed pitching. It's Alek Thomas. They're both left-handed outfielders, but still Jake McCarthy, the guy who crushed it last year, getting the worst opportunities versus an Alek Thomas who is getting the best of opportunities. And for the most part, I understand why Torey Lovullo is doing this, because Jake McCarthy was so good against the lefties last year, and Alek Thomas, meanwhile, hasn't really been good against anyone in his career. So I think it makes sense why you would want to hit Jake against lefties so you could get Alek Thomas going. But at the same time, I've seen so many people start to turn on Jake McCarthy already, and I feel like he's shown enough in his major league career where we shouldn't have such a major heel turn against Jake the Rake. Like, I feel like it's been a little disrespectful at times how quickly people want Alek Thomas to take over this job. And I'm like, Jake McCarthy has 6 at-bats against lefties, 2 at-bats against righties this season. I don't want to punish Jake McCarthy for struggling in situations where he does not have the advantage. Let's see Alek Thomas against some lefty situations, and let's see Jake McCarthy against righties. I want to see if Torey Lovullo going forward is going to even out the utilization as Alek Thomas numbers continue to crush and Jake McCarthy's continues to struggle. Is he going to say, you know what, let's get Jake some better opportunities and let's see if Alek Thomas's numbers can now translate against right-handed pitching? If he does that, I think that would be a very smart move by Torey Lovullo. But I think to just hand Alek Thomas the job, knowing Jake McCarthy just not getting any good opportunities at all and punishing him for it, I think that would be pretty disingenuous. So the center field battle is something that I want to keep a close eye on because I don't want Jake McCarthy to just get pushed to the side. I love the fact that Alek Thomas is playing better. I want him to play better. Best case scenario is that we have 2 of these guys cooking, and it's like one day this guy starts against a righty or a lefty, and then the other day this guy starts against a righty or a lefty. I don't want it to just be Jake, you go against lefties, Alek, you only go against righties, because in that situation, only Alek Thomas benefits. I want to see both guys benefiting because at some point, Dbacks are probably going to have to make a tough decision and trade one of these guys, and you're going to want to do that when their value is the highest. So I want to see Torey Lovullo even out their deployment a little bit. Don't get so rigid with lefty Jake McCarthy, lefty pitching, righty pitching, lefty Alek Thomas. Like, let's not get so rigid with it. Let's be a little bit more flexible because I want to see my guy, Jake the Rake, in some better hitting opportunities. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. So if I'm feeling better, I will go live after the Dbacks first game of against the New York Yankees. But if I'm not, I'll just record something and drop it the next day. So thank you for tuning into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.